live and Michigan's best, and we're continuing our series of Crafted in Michigan, brought to you by Founders Brewing Company, where we highlight incredible businesses all across the state who are either making great things or doing great things. And today I'm very excited to welcome Niko Nicolaides from Nicolaides Knife out of the east side of Detroit, if I'm correct, right? Niko, you're out of Detroit.
Southfield. I'm just off the border of Detroit. So I live in Ferndale. I work and operate out of Southfield, just off 9 Mile. So very close.
I can't hear you. I grew up in Detroit. I cannot hear you say Ferndale without saying fashionable.
I know, right? It's so much different, but I don't know, it's a different scene for sure. But it's nice. With the pandemic and everything now, it's kind of shut down. That it's a lull of a city, but it's still a nice neighborhood to be in for sure.
Oh, absolutely, it's fantastic. Yeah. Well, when I saw that your company Nicolaides Knives was on the Crafted in Michigan list, my little chef heart started hammering, and I'm like, what are these handmade knives? Right. And I looked at them, and they're incredible. How did you get started in this?
So I actually have a weird story background of how I got into knife making. I'm only 23, so I haven't been doing a whole lot in the world in terms of like business and jobs, but I'm trained in trained as a machinist, manufacturing world. So my background was originally in CNC, CAD, CAM, operating multi-million-dollar machines to make just batch work of parts and tools for other people. And the knife making came about as just a hobby when I worked in kitchens. I spent all my last 2 years of high school and all of college working in kitchens, running food, prepping food for the kitchen for daily use. And it just kind of was something I found on YouTube of like knife making, little videos here and there. And I don't know, it just kind of turned into something I wanted to try and figure out for myself. Only thing I've ever been good at is making stuff and figuring out how to do stuff. So when I saw knife making, I thought, okay, cool. That'd be something fun to try. So I started doing this just over 4 years ago. I finished my first knife, I think it was March of 2016. So I've been doing this for 4 years. I've been full-time business for about 2.5. But it was just something I picked up on a whim. And it was a hobby for a long period of time. And then it got to the point where people wanted knives. And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to make you knives. And I haven't stopped making knives for people since. And so I've been really lucky to be able to do that out of dropping out of college and just trying to do something on my own.
That's incredible. You're only 23 years old.
Yeah.
Doing this for 2.5 years. That's to take a jump like that at the age of 20 is insane.
Yeah. It helps when you are able to get out of college without any debt and live at your parents' place for pretty cheap rent for a couple of years.
Good.
But yeah, I've had a great support system of customers, and my parents were helpful early on of, being supportive of me taking this jump and just kind of winging it. Cause I mean, I had savings from working in kitchens, but like, it wasn't enough to just quit everything. And somehow I made it work over the past couple of years. But yeah, super scary adventure for an early 20s person to just stop working in a really well-paying field and just be like, I'm going to make knives in my backyard forever now.
What did your parents say about that?
Oh, they weren't surprised. They they figured I would be doing something along these lines. I've always been interested in like medieval times, like that kind of. Everyone has their thing as a kid: dinosaurs, astronauts. Mine was knights and shining armor. So they knew something was going to happen with Niko and some kind of weapons. And they're not weapons now; they're high functioning pieces of culinary art. But it's pretty close to swords and whatnot.
Absolutely. Are you a regular at the Renaissance Fair down in Detroit?
I had a stint where I went for a couple years back to back, but I don't think I've gone the past 2 years. And I don't know if it's gonna happen this year, but I enjoy it so much.
Yeah, you're right.
It's a fun time for sure.
Well, I love that you took your background in working in kitchens and your love of making things and kind of marrying the two. And I think a lot of people have, obviously everybody has knives, But I think very few of us understand what goes into creating that. And let's talk about what creates a knife, and then let's talk about, we'll get to it a little bit later, how to take care of our knives, because there's a lot of different things that are involved with that. So let's first start, how do you make a knife?
So for me personally, I like the style of knife I make is called an integral knife. It's where all the components kind of flow together seamlessly from blade to the end of the handle. There's one clean juncture of everything being interconnected. And for that, I do a lot of forging is the main part of my work is creating and manipulating steel to get the shapes that I want. So I'll start, most of my knives that people see are a lot of the Damascus patterns, and Damascus is the colloquial term we use for pattern steel. So knives that have different images or patterns or flowing lines throughout.
On the blade. We mean on the blade. We're not talking about just the handle. We're talking
No,
about
we're talking about the blade specifically. So all the dark and light lines you'll see, or the different patterns, that's what we call Damascus or pattern welded steel. And that starts out as two different metals that will stack up or orient in some way to start making steel that gets heated up a little, like over 2,000 degrees, and then applied pressure, and those metals all just fuse together. So from there, we have this now billet of steel that we can take and cut and stack again or manipulate however we want. For me, that's the fun part, is playing with steel and making these patterns. But doing that, I end up with big bars that I'll just cut little pieces out of and stretch the blade out. So that's how I get the blade. It's all forged out. It starts as, imagine the size of maybe like a credit card, about 3/4 of an inch thick, couple inches long, inch and a half wide, just a little nugget of steel that'll get stretched out to a 8-10 inch chef knife. From there, there's a lot of grinding to get the geometry right. Because if you can make a good looking knife, that's great. But these are all, at least for me, these are all tools. So I want them to be able to be used right as well as look good. So dialing in geometry, getting the sharpness and overall performance aspects dialed in. So there's a lot of material removal as well as manipulation. And then handling, I'll use a bunch of different stuff from woods to synthetics, hybrids of like wood and epoxy for different looks. And those are all sculpted to be really ergonomic handles. Some people like straight Japanese style handles. Some people like the more traditional Western sculpted handle. But I mean, at the end of the day, I just want a tool that performs well, looks really good, and feels good in the hand. And all that has just been the culmination of these past 4 years of work, figuring out what feels right, cuts good, and then looks good and is intriguing for people to, it just, people gravitate to stuff that catches their eye, right? So making those patterns is really fun for me to see what people kind of gravitate towards.
one of these. When I looked at your knives, of course, I was like, these are gorgeous. But my question was,
yeah,
are they strong? Are they good? Do they hold the edge? All that stuff. So what makes a strong knife? And one thing you mentioned was removing material from the steel as you're working it. So explain that process to me.
So, well, making a strong knife starts with like the internal structure. Steel itself has a very dynamic range of states it can go through molecularly. So to make a strong knife, we have to go through a heat treat process, which is a very scientific based metallurgy process of essentially just making a knife harder. Steel is iron with carbon. Carbon lets steel get hard, which is why we use steel for tools like cutting, axes, drills. All use a type of steel or a hard steel or steel-like compound, but that hard steel is what lets a knife perform well. So a real big part is our heat treat. That's what, lets us be confident in our work. But yeah, removing metal, because when I forge knives, they're thick-ish. So removing metal is to make a knife balanced, get a nice thin edge at the very edge. It's nice and thin, so it cuts real nice, but then it starts to taper and kind of has a curvature convex to it. So it's rigid enough where it's not gonna bend and flex behind the edge, but the edge is thin enough where it will cut cleanly and is easy to resharpen. Um, it's a whole load of figuring out what kind of geometry and shape works, and it's hard to explain without any real big visuals because just all the shapes I'm doing with my hands looks like I'm.
I like Well,
Yeah.
how are you figuring that out? Or do you use a computer program that measures the knives? Do you just eyeball it and say, yep, that looks pretty good? Or
So the latter, really, it's just a matter of grinding and testing in the kitchen. So I'll take a knife, and I've done them before where they're just perfectly flat all the way to the edge, and those cut nice, but a lot of stuff sticks to it. The edges are really thin, so if they're a little more fragile, they can bend and chip like that, being very thin. So then you try another thing. It's just a bunch of trial and error. I don't use any kind of computer programs, which is ironic, being having a background in computer and machine programming and operating. I don't like to use computers in my work. I like to feel everything. So it's just a lot of testing and performance stuff. It's trying something out and tweaking and making notes for the next one. And after you do that enough, you find what kind of works right for you.
it
And
really, when you explain it like that, it really shows that you are a true artisan, that you're really doing it by feeling, by knowledge, and by experience. I mean, although you're only 23 to have 4 years doing that's a lot.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's 4 years of work only, but it's anywhere from 8 to 16 hour days if I've got stuff going on. It really is a passion. Like I tell people I really enjoy making knives. I'm not totally focused on selling knives. It's good that they sell and I can make money from it. Obviously, it's how a business works, but I really just enjoy making knives and the process of creating stuff, and the fact that people want them and that lets me stay in business is great. But I'd still think if I was doing something else, I'd still be making knives for fun at this point in time. I love it to this. Yeah, it's it's what I love.
Well, I love that you found your passion and that you now get to make it your career. That's pretty fantastic. Are most of your customers professional chefs, or do you sell to a lot of regular cooks, home cooks as well?
It's been a wide range over the years. I'll get a lot of chefs from restaurants that are looking to put a new knife in their bag, or collectors that want uh, this specific piece, maybe not for use, just to have in their collection. I've had multiple like return customers that are just home cooks that like my stuff and want another knife for the next process. It really just depends on the customer. I've gotten anywhere from people that run and operate restaurants, people that are looking for gifts for family members. I think anyone that likes to cook will appreciate a good knife, and my customers have been that whole spectrum of people. Uh,
That's awesome. Now, you mentioned that you'll do kind of some custom things. You could call and say, this is the type of knife I like, and you'll make that. Which to me, that would be kind of the greatest gift you could give a chef, is something that's really specific.
yeah, it's super nice. I had a really exciting order. I do custom orders. That's been my primary uh, line of business for the past 4 years, is people looking for specific things. And I just had a really fun one not too long ago. I forgot to take pictures of it. It's when all the COVID stuff was starting. I'm like, oh, I got to get this in the postcard. It's like, so I forgot to take pictures, but it was a chef knife that he was adding to a set to kind of match some knives he received from his grandmother. So we took little semblances of like antique looking blades, so made it look like it was old and worn like the other ones. Kind of handle material of a wood that's local to the area, and some other little details that kind of made it match. And those are fun orders because it's something super specific and personal, and to be able to craft that and have a super sentimental value to that customer is a really cool part of my work. A lot of my stuff is just people looking for something pretty and nice, but getting those very special sentimental custom orders are really, it's really enjoyable.
I bet that's nice. That true personal touch, which is really
Yeah.
good. we'll talk about your relationship with Founders Crafted in Michigan in a minute, but let's give our listeners a couple tips that they can take home with them on how to best treat their knives, even if they're not lucky enough to have a Nicolaides knife.
Yeah, of course. So there's two different kinds of knife steels that are generally used. Most home cooks will probably have stainless knives outfitted in their kitchens. And then for people that have carbon steel knives, the care is a little different, but I give the same advice to both. And it's just to keep your knives dry. So run them under the sink, wipe them down after you're done using them, make sure they're stored dry. If you can, avoid using like knife blocks, like the big blocks where you put in each knife. Those are nice, but they can hold and contain bacteria in there. So it's kind of a little gross to use those. I recommend the nice magnet holders that you can like put above your sink or something. So keeping knives dry, don't use a dishwasher. Yeah, it's so easy not to. And then just general maintenance. If your knife feels dull, reach out to someone that does sharpening, get it sharpened. If you want to figure out how to do sharpening at home, it's really easy to do with a simple diamond stone or whetstones. There's plenty of YouTube videos on sharpening. That's how I learned everything, is from YouTube. So it can definitely be done. And just general maintenance, like just don't leave stuff on it, wipe them down. Knives are super easy, and I think they get beat up because people try to like open cans with them, or like do these little things that like there's can openers for a reason. There's stuff like that, but I think you would treat it like anything else you would treat nicely. Like you wouldn't, I don't know. For me it's different because I kind of beat my knives to hell because I can fix them if I need to. Going through the process of just kind of really abusing them, but keeping them dry, sharpening them regularly if they need to. Nothing's worse than a dull knife. And then if you have carbon steel knives specifically, oiling them maybe every other month or so. A light mineral oil or something just helps protect the blade from any rust or excessive patina that may occur. But knife care is relatively easy.
It is, but it is. I think you made a great point that there's nothing worse than a dull knife, because a dull knife is actually less safe than a sharp knife.
Absolutely.
That's when you make that mistake. That's when you miss the cut and it goes in your hand.
and you get yourself. I cannot tell you how many times that's happened in kitchens other than my own. And then I look like the dummy. Oh, the knife guy cut himself with the knife. It's not my knife. It's your dull knife. That's why I got hurt. It's not my fault. Well, yeah. Right. So
yeah. One more technical kind of question. You mentioned getting your knives sharpened, and I'm assuming that you mean a professional sharpening them, unless you happen to be doing that on your own. But what do people do when they are using their steel? Because they're not sharpening, they're more honing. What does that mean?
Right. So using that steel rod that you have is really just to clear away any kind of a burr. Sometimes when you're using a knife, the edge will deflect away. So it'll go from being kind of straight and sharp like this to kind of being rolled over on one end. All that steel is doing is pushing stuff back to center. When your knives become dull, they're not sharp anymore. They're kind of blunted. So that steel isn't going to do anything except to rub around. You have to get material removed, take away material, make the edge a little thinner, and then you'll get back to sharp. Steels are good for like intermediate maintenance, but you're not really going to be sharpening a lot on your traditional honing steel. They're nice to have, but they're not the best tool for sharpening.
They're not a replacement for sharpening. That's
exactly, yeah.
But they are good to use in between, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have a freshly sharpened knife and you've really been putting it to work, and you go to cut the next time and you feel it might be a little dull, just a couple runs on that will get everything nice and aligned, and then you'll be able to cut again. But you can't just be using a steel for 6 months. It's not going to be making your knife any sharper at that point.
Good points. Okay, I love that. Now, Nicolaides Knives was named one of the partners in the Crafted in Michigan campaign by Founders Brewing Company. What did that mean for you, and what kind of changes have you seen since that got announce, and especially during this time, during the pandemic, when things have been a little whacked out?
Right. So for me, it was just a really cool thing to see founders highlighting other makers, and I was just glad to be a part of that. Um, I've been busy for the past year. I've had orders, and I got a few orders from founders. Um, for me, really, it was just like a nice way to expand my what's a good word for it? Expand my spread of people seeing my work. I like to really just share my work. I'm not trying to sell knives to everybody. That's that's not my goal. But it's, to see more people enjoy and engage in the stuff I do is just been really meaningful to me, especially with everything going on. To see people light up a little bit, like get a couple nice smiley emoji comments. It's cool. But it was just like a nice sentiment. They've been doing some cool stuff, sharing with makers or sharing makers around on their platforms. And it was just like a nice little push for my business.
That's awesome. So what can we expect coming up in the next maybe months, years from Nicolaides Knives?
Right. So I'm actually going to be closing my custom books in about 2 weeks for the first time in 4 years. I've been doing that for a long time, and I have a long wait list, and I want to start doing new stuff. So I'm still going to be doing a bunch of new custom orders, and then a bunch of retailer deals that I work with. And then I'm going to be trying some new stuff, just working on new things, bigger projects, just stuff I haven't done before. But I'm still going to be doing a lot of kitchen knives, a lot of different patterns. I don't know, just having fun, like just trying to enjoy work,
I love that, Nico. I love your energy, and I love what you're doing, following your passion at such a young age, making it happen. That's fantastic.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. So if people want to find out more information about your knives, maybe they want to place an order or learn more about your company, where should they go?
Just Nicolaides Knives on either Facebook or Instagram is the best way to reach me. I don't have a website set up yet. Maybe in the future, but either send me an email or reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook. I'd love to just talk about knives. If you have any questions about ordering, just let me know. I'm always here to answer questions. That's probably what I do most after knife making, is answer questions.
You're doing a great job on both. So,
thank you.
Nico, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Amy.